I walk out. The robe feels the same as it has for decades. It's a suit of armor, not of vanity. I take my seat, and the room settles. Bird stands stoic, a silent testament to order. My eyes scan the litigants. On my left, a young woman, probably mid-20s. Her hands are clasped so tight her knuckles are white. She looks terrified, but there's a flicker of resolve in her eyes. Good for her. On my right is the reason we're all here. He's a man in his 50s, wearing a suit that's a little too tight, a little too shiny. He's got that puffed up chest of a man who's been in charge for too long and has forgotten what it's like to be told no. He's got a smirk that isn't charming. It's a shield. I pick up the file. Sarah Miller. Defendant, John Thompson. I read his occupation. Former chief of police. The former is a recent addition, I'd bet. This is going to be interesting. I look at the defendant. You're Mr. Thompson? He nods. That smirk still plastered on his face. Yes, Judge. Chief Thompson, retired. In my courtroom, you're Mr. Thompson or defendant. The titles get left at the door along with the nonsense. Do you understand me? The smirk falters for a second. Just a second. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Miss Miller, I say, turning to the young woman. You're suing Mr. Thompson for $5,000, the maximum, for damages to your vehicle. Tell me what happened. Simple. Fast. No tears. She takes a shaky breath. I was driving down Oak Street. I had a green light. Mr. Thompson was on Elm. He had a stop sign. He didn't stop. He drove right into the side of my car. Straightforward. Did you get out of the vehicle? Did you exchange information? I got out. I was shaken up. My whole passenger side was crushed in. He got out of his big SUV, not even a scratch on it. I asked for his license and insurance. He just laughed. I look at Thompson. He's shaking his head like this is the most ridiculous story he's ever heard. You're shaking your head, sir. Are you getting a cramp? No, Judge. This is a gross mischaracterization of events. Ah, mischaracterization. Big words. Let's stick to small ones. Did you or did you not run a stop sign? Judge, with all due respect, here we go. I mutter, nothing good ever follows. With all due respect, spit it out. I was the chief of police at the time, he says, as if that's a magic incantation. My attention was on a potential situation down the block. Standard operational awareness dictates I hold up my hand, the international symbol for shut up, stop. Just stop right there. A potential situation? What does that mean? Was there a robbery in progress? A fire? Was a cat stuck in a tree? I had reason to believe my presence might be required. That's not an answer. That's political double talk. I'm not a city council meeting, sir. This is a courtroom. I deal in facts. What was the emergency that required you to ignore a federally mandated traffic sign? He puffs his chest out again. My movements and operational readiness are not a matter for civilian discussion. I stare at him. I just stare. I let the silence hang in the air until it's so heavy he starts to shift on his feet. The smirk is long gone. Excuse me? Did you just say that the law doesn't apply to you? Is that what came out of your mouth? Bird, did you hear that? I must have water in my ears. Bird cracks a hint of a smile. Heard it loud and clear. Judge. Mr. Thompson. I lean forward. Let me explain something to you, since it seems your years on the force have muddled your understanding of basic civics. That badge you wore? It didn't make you a king. It made you a public servant. It means you're supposed to be held to a higher standard, not no standard at all. You're in a courtroom now. Your operational readiness is very much a matter of discussion, because you used a 2-ton vehicle to smash into this young lady's car and then try to intimidate her. So, for the last time, what was the cataclysmic emergency? He's cornered. He knows it. I was on my way to a Chamber of Commerce luncheon. The room is silent. I can hear the sound of brains short-circuiting. A luncheon. A luncheon, I repeat, my voice dangerously calm. To protect and serve the chicken Kiev. Was the keynote speaker a flight risk? Were you afraid the salad forks were going to start a riot? It was an official city function, he sputters. I don't care if it was a ticker tape parade in your honor. You ran a stop sign. Now, Miss Miller, let's go back. He refused to give you his insurance? Yes, Your Honor. He pulled out his badge. He told me to calm down. He said that he would handle it internally and that filing a report would be a bad career move for everyone involved. Then he got in his car and drove away. I turned my gaze back to Thompson. It's like putting a bug under a microscope. A bad career move? You threatened her? You used your position to intimidate a citizen after you broke the law and destroyed her property? Is that what they teach you at the academy now? She's being hysterical. It was a minor tap. A minor tap? I slam my hand down on the file. I'm looking at a photograph of Miss Miller's car. The entire passenger side looks like a crumpled up piece of tinfoil. The axle is bent. The estimate is for $5,800 in damages. You call that a tap? Maybe in the demolition derby you were training for on your way to the luncheon. But in the real world, that's a collision. And you, sir, are 100% at fault. There's no proof. I ran the sign. Oh, you want to talk about proof? I love proof. I pull out a document from the file. This is a sworn affidavit from a Mr. Henderson who was sitting on his porch directly opposite the intersection. He states, under penalty of perjury, that he saw your giant taxpayer-funded SUV blow through the stop sign like it wasn't even there and T-bone the plaintiff's car. Any more mischaracterizations you'd like to share with me? His face goes from red to a pale, clammy white. He has nothing. He built his entire defense on a foundation of arrogance, and I just kicked it out from under him. He opens his mouth, then closes it. Smartest thing he's done all day. That's what I thought, I say. You believe the rules didn't apply to you? You thought your title and your uniform made you a god among mortals? You were wrong. He just stands there, his mouth slightly ajar, like a fish on a dock. The gears are turning in that head of his. I can see them grinding and smoking, trying to find an exit ramp off the highway to humiliation he's currently traveling on, but there are no exits. I built this road myself. Cat got your tongue, Chief? Or did you leave it at the luncheon with the complimentary breadsticks? I ask, my voice laced with ice. You came in here expecting a rubber stamp. You thought you'd flash a little of that residual authority, use a few big words, and I'd pat you on the head and send this little girl packing. Is that about the size of it? He doesn't answer. He just stares at his shiny, too expensive shoes. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I command. His eyes snap up. You are an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment to the uniform you used to wear, to the city you were sworn to protect, and to the basic concept of personal responsibility. You hit this woman's car, period. You lied about it, period. You tried to intimidate her, period. These are not mischaracterizations. They are facts. And in my world, facts are stubborn things. I turn back to the plaintiff. Miss Miller, do you have the repair estimate with you? She fumbles in her purse, her hand still shaking, and hands a folded paper to Bird, who passes it to me. I smooth it out. Total repair cost, $5,842.17. You're suing for $5,000 because that's the limit here. Smart girl? So you've been without a car since this happened? Yes, Your Honor. 2 months. I have to take the bus to work. It's 2 transfers. It takes me an hour and a half each way. I used to drive it in 20 minutes. I've been late twice, and my boss gave me a written warning. I look at Thompson. You hear that? While you're enjoying your retirement, probably paid for by the same taxpayers you feel you're above, this young woman who you wronged is risking her livelihood because of your arrogance. Does that even register? Judge, I have a spotless record. He begins, his voice thin. I don't care. I cut him off. The words echo in this small room. I don't care if you have a letter of recommendation from the Pope. What you did on that day is what we are talking about. Your past doesn't give you a free pass to be a menace in the present. Did you file a police report after the incident? As I was the chief, it's a yes or no question, sir. Did you file a report documenting the accident you caused? Of course you didn't. Did you call your own insurance company? I believe the matter could be handled informally. Answer the question. Did you call your insurance company? He looks down again. No. So let me get this straight. You caused an accident. You fled the scene. You made no official report. You made no insurance claim. Your plan from start to finish was to make this disappear, to use the power of your office to erase your own incompetence and your own liability. You didn't just run a stop sign, Mr. Thompson. You tried to run over the entire system of justice. He's got nothing. The silence is his confession. He's a hollow man, a uniform with no honor inside it. He was a bully on the street, and he tried to be a bully in my courtroom. But bullies only have power when people are afraid of them. And I'm not afraid of him. I'm not afraid of anyone. Miss Miller had to take a day off work to be here. She spent 2 months cobbling together transportation. She's had to live with the stress of being threatened by a man who was supposed to be her protector. All because you were in a hurry for a free lunch. I pick up my gavel. He sees it, and for the first time, I see genuine fear in his eyes. Not respect, fear. The fear of consequences. It's a look he should have seen in the mirror a long, long time ago. I've heard all I need to hear. This isn't complicated. It's one of the simplest cases I've ever seen. It's a case of right versus wrong, of responsibility versus cowardice, of a citizen versus a tyrant. I look from his pale, defeated face to Miss Miller's anxious one. I give her a small, almost imperceptible nod. The resolve in her eyes solidifies. She knows what's coming. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. I bring the gavel down. The sound is final. It's absolute, but I'm not finished with him. Not by a long shot. The money is just the appetizer. Now comes the main course. And now, Mr. Thompson, I say, leaning forward, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone. You and I are going to have a little chat about integrity. That word integrity hangs in the air. It's a word he probably used in 100 speeches, a word he had printed on departmental coffee mugs. Now it's a weapon pointed directly at him. His eyes narrow. He thinks the case is over. He thinks he can just write a check and walk away. He has no idea how wrong he is. This is my courtroom. The gavel is just punctuation. I decide when the sentence is over. You seem to be under the impression that this $5,000 is a fine, a cost of doing business. You think you can pay the bill, and your debt to society is settled. Let me disabuse you of that notion immediately. I point a single, unwavering finger at him. You didn't just break a traffic law. You broke a sacred trust. The moment you took your badge and gun out, not to help, but to intimidate a citizen, the very person whose taxes paid your salary, you corrupted your office, you used the shield of the law as a club to beat down an innocent person who was merely asking you to follow it. He tries to interrupt. Your Honor, with all due respect. Respect? You're going to talk to me about respect? You, who showed none for the law, for your position, or for this young woman? Don't you dare. You will stand there and you will listen. Bird, make sure he listens. Bird takes half a step forward. It's all that's needed. Thompson's mouth clamps shut. You told her filing a report would be a bad career move for everyone involved. That's not just a threat. That is a textbook definition of obstruction of justice. You, the highest-ranking law enforcement officer in your town, committed a crime to cover up a fender bender. How pathetic is that? How small do you have to be to abuse that much power for something so trivial? I let the question hang. I want him to feel the weight of it. And you did it with such arrogance. You walked in here today, not with remorse, not with an apology, but with a ridiculous story about operational readiness for a luncheon. A luncheon! You dishonored every decent, hard-working police officer who puts their life on the line every day while you were worried about getting a good seat. They have to deal with the distrust you create. You make their difficult job even harder. I can see the plaintiff, Miss Miller, is no longer scared. She's watching him, and her expression has changed. She's not a victim anymore. She's a witness to justice. She's seeing the bully get his due, And what about you, sir? What happens to people like you, people who think the rules are for other people? Well, in the real world, you might get away with it. You might intimidate enough people, call in enough favors, and skate by. But you made one critical mistake today. You walked into my world, and in my world, nobody is above the law. Not a former police chief, not a senator, not a king, nobody. I pick up a piece of paper from the file. This is a transcript of our proceedings today. Every word you've said, every lie, every evasion, every pathetic attempt to justify your thuggery. I am sending a copy of this transcript, along with a copy of the evidence and my judgment, to two places. First, to the Internal Affairs Division of your former police department. Maybe they'd be interested to know the character of the man who led them. Maybe it will prompt a review of other internally handled matters from your tenure. His face loses another shade of color. He looks like a ghost in a cheap suit. Second, I continue, my voice relentless. I'm sending a copy to the district attorney's office. Your little chat with Miss Miller at the scene, the one about bad career moves, that sounds an awful lot like witness tampering and obstruction to me. I'm not a prosecutor, but I know a potential felony when I hear one. I'm sure the DA will be very interested in your definition of operational readiness. Let's see if it holds up under a grand jury investigation. The air goes out of him. The puffed up chest deflates like a cheap balloon. The man who walked in here looking down his nose at everyone is now staring at the floor, a broken, terrified shell. He sees his whole world, his reputation, his pension, his freedom, circling the drain. And all because he couldn't be bothered to stop at a stop sign and act like a decent human being. You thought you were a big shot, I say, my voice now quiet but sharp as a razor. You're not. You're just a small man who was given a big uniform. You're dismissed. He doesn't move. He's frozen. Get out, I say, a little louder. Your time in my courtroom is over. Go contemplate your future. I hear the food at the county courthouse cafeteria is not as good as the Chamber of Commerce luncheon. Bird gestures to the door. Thompson turns, his shoulders slumped, and shuffles out of the courtroom. He doesn't look back. The smirk is gone, replaced by the blank, hollow look of a man who just flew too close to the sun and had his wax wings of arrogance melted away completely. I turn to Miss Miller. She has tears in her eyes now, but they're not tears of fear. They're tears of relief. Are you all right, young lady, I ask, my tone softening just a fraction. She nods, wiping her eyes. Thank you, Judge. Thank you. I was so scared. He made me feel so powerless. Well, you're not powerless, I tell her, looking her straight in the eye. You stood up to a bully and you won. Don't you ever forget that. Go get your car fixed. She smiles. A real, genuine smile. I will. She gathers her things and leaves, walking a little taller than when she came in. That's what this is all about. It's not about the $5,000. It's about restoring the balance. It's about showing the arrogant and the powerful that the scales of justice are not weighted in their favor. Not here. Not while I'm on the bench. I look at Bird. He gives a slow, appreciative nod. He's seen it 1,000 times, but it never gets old. It's the simple, beautiful truth of the matter. You lie, you lose. You're a bully, you get knocked down. You think you're above the law? You end up learning the hard way that you're right underneath my gavel. I stand up. Another case, another piece of nonsense sorted out. I turn to walk back to my chambers. It's a good day for justice, and a very, very bad day to be John Thompson. Which, in my book, makes it a very good day indeed. The world is a tiny bit more sensible than it was an hour ago. And for now, that's enough. I walk into my chambers and the silence is a welcome relief. It's a different kind of silence than the one I command in the courtroom. That one is tense, filled with anticipation and fear. This one is calm. It's the silence of a job done. I take off the robe and hang it carefully. It's just a piece of fabric, but it carries the weight of 1,000 stupid decisions, 1,000,000 lies, and every now and then a flicker of genuine justice. Bird comes in with a bottle of water. He doesn't say anything, just sets it on my desk. He knows I don't need a post-game analysis. We've been doing this dance for too long. You think the DA will actually take a run at him? He asks, his voice even. I twist the cap off the bottle. I don't know, and I don't care. That's not my job. My job is to shine a very bright, very unflattering light on the cockroaches. If the exterminator decides to show up after I'm done, that's a bonus. He gives a slight smile. That was a very bright light, Judge. He earned it, I say, taking a sip of water. Men like Thompson are a special kind of poison. They don't just break the law, they corrode the very idea of it. They make people like that poor girl, Sarah Miller, believe the whole system is rigged. They make citizens afraid of the people who are supposed to make them feel safe. I sit down in my chair. It's not as high as the one on the bench, but my view from here is often clearer. In the courtroom, I see the facts. Back here, I see the rot behind them. Thompson wasn't just a man who ran a stop sign. He was a man who had been running stop signs his whole life, metaphorically speaking, getting away with small things, then bigger things, cutting corners, bullying subordinates, flexing his authority for perks. It's a classic trajectory. Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals. And what it revealed in John Thompson was a hollow, arrogant fool. My clerk, a sharp young woman named Maria, knocks and enters. Judge, the letter to the district attorney's office is ready for your signature. It attaches the full transcript and the evidence from Miller v. Thompson. Let me see it, I say. She hands me the paper. It's perfect, cold, professional, and damning. It simply states the facts. A judgment was rendered based on sworn testimony and evidence, and certain statements made by the defendant, a former public official, appeared to constitute potential violations of state law, specifically regarding obstruction of justice and witness intimidation. There's no emotion in it. The letter doesn't need to shout. The transcript screams. I sign my name at the bottom, a simple flick of the wrist. But that signature is a trigger. It sends a cannonball flying that Thompson won't see coming until it crashes through his living room wall. He thinks his day couldn't get any worse. He's about to find out how wrong he is. Send it out. Certified mail. Send the one to his old department the same way. I want a paper trail. I want signatures. I instruct. I want him to know that this isn't going away. Yes, Judge, Maria says, taking the letter and leaving the room. I lean back and stare at the ceiling for a moment. It's the little things that get you. The casualness of his tyranny. He ruined that woman's day, her car, her peace of mind, and was annoyed that she had the audacity to question him. He didn't see a citizen he was sworn to protect. He saw an insect on his windshield. It's that dehumanization that always precedes the worst abuses of power. And Sarah Miller, she came in here looking like a scared rabbit, but she had her facts straight. She had her paperwork. She didn't back down. In her own quiet way, she was tougher than he ever was. He was a bully hiding behind a badge. She was just a citizen armed with the truth. On any given day, I'll bet on the citizen with the truth. It's a much more powerful weapon. I pull the next file towards me. The title makes me groan. Peterson v. Peterson, a divorce case. They're not fighting over the kids or the house. They're here, in my courtroom, to argue over custody of a prize-winning ficus tree named Figgy. 1 minute you're dealing with the rot of institutional power and the foundations of civic duty. The next, you're deciding the fate of a houseplant. I shake my head. This is the job. You wade through an ocean of nonsense to find the occasional island of justice. You deal with the foolish to protect the innocent. You listen to idiots argue about a ficus tree so that you have the authority to bring down a corrupt police chief. It's a package deal. I open the file. The plaintiff claims the defendant doesn't water Figgy correctly out of spite. The defendant has submitted a photograph of a moisture meter as Exhibit B. I take another sip of water and sigh. Bird, I call out. Get ready. We're about to enter the twilight zone. From the other room, I hear his deep, resigned voice. Always are, Judge. Always are. He's right. But for every 10 cases about spiteful plant watering, you get one John Thompson. And taking down a John Thompson makes all the nonsense worthwhile. It reminds me why I put on the robe in the first place. Not for the figgies of the world, but for the Sarah Millers. And that's a pretty good reason to go back out there. I smooth my robe and walk back out. The energy in the room has completely changed. Gone is the tension, the palpable fear and anger of the last case. In its place is something worse, the suffocating miasma of petty domestic stupidity. The Petersons are seated. He looks like a man who irons his jeans. She's wearing an outfit that costs more than Miss Miller's entire car repair bill, and it's ugly. They are glaring at each other with the kind of pure, distilled hatred only two people who once promised to love each other forever can muster. All right, Peterson versus Peterson, I say, the words tasting like ash. You're divorced. Congratulations. The papers are signed. Yet here you are. One of you is suing the other over a plant. Is that correct? Did I read that right? Or did I have a stroke in my chambers? The woman, Mrs. Peterson, speaks up. It's not just a plant, Your Honor. Figgy is a living being. He has emotional needs. I stare at her, blankly. Figgy. Yes, she says, her chin trembling. Our ficus tree. And he, she says, pointing a perfectly manicured finger at her ex-husband, is a murderer, a serial plant killer. The man scoffs. That's ridiculous. I followed the watering schedule we agreed upon in the mediation. You use tap water, she shrieks. You know Figgy only tolerates filtered room temperature spring water. It says so right in the arbiter's agreement, page 4, subsection C. I feel a headache forming behind my eyes. A real thumper. Let me see this agreement. Bird retrieves a document that looks thicker than the Treaty of Versailles. I flip through it. He's right. There it is. A legally binding, notarized document detailing the watering, feeding, and emotional support schedule for a ficus tree. These people spent thousands of dollars on lawyers to draft this thousands of dollars that could have gone to charity, to a college fund, to literally anything other than documenting the beverage preferences of a shrub. You're telling me you paid adults with law degrees to write this, I ask, holding up the document as if it were a dirty diaper? We wanted to be thorough, Mr. Peterson says, puffing out his chest. We both love Figgy very much. No, you don't, I snap. You love hating each other. Figgy is just the battleground. He's the leafy little prisoner of war in your stupid, endless game. Do you have any idea how ridiculous you both sound? There are people in this world with real problems, real life-altering tragedies. And you are in here, taking up this court's valuable time, arguing about whether a plant prefers Evian or Dasani. It's pathetic. They both look offended, which is just delightful. Their shared indignation is probably the first thing they've agreed on in years. Your Honor, Mrs. Peterson says, this is about principle. No, it's about nonsense, I counter. It's about two grown-up children who need a new hobby. What are you suing for, exactly? The cost of the plant? I'm suing for emotional distress, she says. For myself and for Figgy. That's it. I'm done. You're suing on behalf of a plant for its feelings. Is the plant going to testify? Is it going to take the stand and tell me, in its own woody words, how the tap water has scarred it emotionally? Before she can answer that insane question, my clerk Maria walks in quietly and places a folded note on my bench. This is not standard procedure. Maria knows never to interrupt unless the building is on fire or someone important is on the phone. I unfold the note. It's not a long message. Just one sentence. Chief of Staff for District Attorney Reynolds on line 1. Urgent regarding your referral on John Thompson. A slow smile spreads across my face. It's not a warm smile. It's a smile of pure, unadulterated vindication. The wheels of justice, it turns out, can sometimes move very, very fast. I look up at the bickering Petersons, who have started whispering insults at each other. Their entire world, their drama, their precious Figgy, has shrunk to the size of a pinhead. They are utterly insignificant. We're taking a 5-minute recess, I announce, banging the gavel sharply. Don't go anywhere. And don't talk to each other. In fact, don't talk at all. Just sit there and contemplate the poor life choices that brought you here. I stand and sweep back into my chambers, leaving them in a stunned silence. I pick up the phone. This is Judge Judy. Judge, thank you for taking the call, a brisk, professional voice says on the other end. This is David Chen, Chief of Staff for the DA. We received your transcript. To be blunt, we're floored. Are you? I ask, keeping my voice neutral. The DA read it himself. He wants to move on this and move on it now. The phrase, a bad career move for everyone involved, that's not just smoke, that's a 5-alarm fire. We're opening a formal criminal investigation into Thompson for obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and abuse of authority, effective immediately. We'd like to formally request the unedited video of the court proceedings. We're sending a detective over to pick up a copy this afternoon. I knew it. I knew it in my gut when I heard Thompson's slimy, self-assured voice. He wasn't just arrogant. He was a criminal hiding in plain sight. And his ego just wrote out his own indictment on national television. The tape will be ready for him, I say. Thank you for the call, Mr. Chen. No, Judge, he says, and I can hear the sincerity in his voice. Thank you. You handed us a conviction on a silver platter. I hang up the phone. For a moment, I just sit there. This is what it's all about. That young woman, Sarah Miller, will get more than just a check for her car. She'll get to see the man who threatened her held accountable in a way he never, ever thought possible. He wasn't just judged in my court. He's about to be judged in a criminal court where the penalties are a lot steeper than $5,000. His pension, his reputation, his freedom, it's all on the line. All because he couldn't just say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. 2 of the hardest words in the English language for a man like him to say. And now he'll have a long, long time to regret that. I take a deep breath, stand up, and smooth my robe. It's time to go back out there and deal with the ficus tree. Suddenly, the case seems incredibly simple. I know exactly what I'm going to do. The Petersons want a judgment? Oh, they're going to get one. I walk back onto the bench. The Petersons look up, expectant, like 2 toddlers, waiting to see which one of them I'll declare the winner of their sandbox fight. Their petty squabble feels a universe away from the phone call I just took. It's like stepping from a surgical theater back into a circus. All right, I begin, my voice flat and devoid of any patience I might have had before. I've had a moment to consider the profound legal and emotional complexities of the People versus Figgy. Mr. Peterson preens a little. Mrs. Peterson sits up straighter. They think I'm taking them seriously. The fools. You both claim to love this plant. You both claim you want what's best for it. You have a detailed document outlining its care, which, while insane, does show a certain level of commitment. However, you're using this plant as a weapon. It's not a living being to you. It's a tool for inflicting misery on the person you used to love. You're causing this plant and yourselves more stress than a gallon of tap water ever could. I lean forward. So, here is my judgment. It is final, it is binding, and it is not open for discussion. I look at Mrs. Peterson. You are suing for emotional distress. I am denying your claim. You know why? Because your distress is self-inflicted. You are choosing to engage in this foolishness. Case dismissed. Her jaw drops. But, I said no discussion. I cut her off. Now, for you, Mr. Peterson, you are the defendant, but you are not innocent. You are a willing participant in this charade. I point to the big, leafy ficus tree sitting on a cart near Bird, which they actually wheeled into my courtroom as evidence. It's a perfectly nice-looking plant. It looks healthier than either of these 2 miserable people. That tree is the only innocent party in this entire ridiculous affair. So, I am ordering that neither of you gets to keep it. You have proven yourselves to be unfit plant parents. Their heads snap towards me in unison. What? They both exclaim. You heard me. You don't deserve the plant. The plant deserves better. Bird, I say, turning to my bailiff. Yes, Judge. After this session, please take custody of Exhibit A, the ficus tree known as Figgy. Find a nice sunny spot for it, maybe in the courthouse lobby, someplace public where it can get some peace and quiet away from these 2 lunatics. Its new legal guardians are the people. It is now a ward of the state. Congratulations, Figgy. You're free. The Petersons are apoplectic. They're sputtering, speechless. They came here to fight for ownership, and I've just expropriated their prized possession. This is an outrage. Mr. Peterson finally manages. No, an outrage is what you've done to the legal system today. An outrage is wasting taxpayer money on this garbage. You want to see the plant? You can come visit it during regular courthouse hours, but not at the same time. I'll have Bird draw up a visitation schedule. Now get out of my courtroom, both of you. They stare, dumbfounded, as Bird puts a proprietary hand on Figgy's pot. Then, defeated, they gather their things and slink out, not even looking at each other. For the first time all day, they are united in their stunned fury at me. Good. Maybe it will give them something new to talk about. As the doors close behind them, Bird looks at the tree, then at me. Visitation schedule, Judge? Of course, I say with a straight face. He gets it Mondays and Wednesdays. She gets it Tuesdays and Thursdays. They can alternate Fridays. No overnight stays. A rare, full laugh escapes Bird's lips. The sound echoes warmly in the now empty courtroom. You know, Judge, he says, shaking his head. Some days, I know, Bird, some days it feels like I'm the last sane person on earth. And as I walk back to my chambers, I think about the contrast. In the span of 1 hour, I saw the very worst and the most absurd of human behavior. I saw a powerful man brought low by his own arrogance, and two powerless people trying to create meaning out of a meaningless fight. I saw justice that was swift and consequential, and justice that was, frankly, just making it up as I went along to teach two idiots a lesson. The call from the DA's office was the real victory. It meant that the system, for all its flaws and all its figs, sometimes actually works. It meant that a man like Thompson, who believed he was untouchable, was about to be touched by the long, impartial arm of the law he so casually disdained. He thought he was playing chess, but he was just a pawn in a much larger game, and he had just been taken off the board. His little world of impunity was over. The maximum penalty he received in my courtroom was just the beginning. The real penalty, the one that would strip him of his pride, his pension, and possibly his liberty, was still to come. And Sarah Miller, the quiet young woman with the crushed car and the steadfast belief in right and wrong, she was the real winner. She got her money, yes, but she also got her faith in the system restored. She saw that one small voice, telling the truth, could indeed topple a giant. That's why I do this. Not for the money, not for the fame. I do it for the Sarah Millers of the world, and to make sure the John Thompsons of the world get exactly what they deserve. As for the Petersons, they just get a visitation schedule for a ficus tree. And in my book, that's a perfect day's work. Justice, in its many forms, has been served.